rise. Court come to order.
You may be seated. Let the record reflect that the defendant is present along with counsel for the defendant, assistant state attorney, both sides willing to proceed.
State's ready.
All right, let's return to jury.
All right, jury entry.
You may be seated. State recognized presence of the jury
We do, Your Honor.
and the defense.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, members of the jury, did you follow all of my previous instructions?
Yes.
Okay, state me call the next witness.
The state calls Edward Severino.
Raise your right hand, place your vote. You solemnly swear that the testimony you give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Does it require Spanish interpreter?
Yes, Your Honor, he will.
Madam Clerk, would you swear to interpret?
You solemnly swear to translate your English to Spanish and Spanish to English, so help you God.
I do. This is Jorge Bonilla, correct?
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your last name for the record?
¿Podría usted declarar su nombre completo y deletrear su apellido para las actas?
Edward Vladimir Severino. Mi apellido es S-E-V-E-R-I-N-O.
Edward Vladimir Severino. My last name is spelled S-E-V-E-R-I-N-O.
And Mr. Severino, in what city do you currently reside?
Señor Severino, ¿qué ciudad vive usted actualmente?
En la ciudad de Orlando.
In the city of Orlando.
And how long have you lived in Orlando?
¿Y cuánto tiempo ha vivido usted en Orlando?
Alrededor de 13, 14 años.
About 13, 14 years.
Where are you currently employed?
¿Dónde trabaja usted actualmente?
HNTV Corporación.
HNTV Corporation.
And what is your job title at HNTV Corporation?
¿Y cuál es su título de su trabajo en la HNTV Corporation?
Ingeniero de proyecto, líder de squad, Project Engineering Squad Leader.
I'm a project engineer and squad leader.
And what does a project engineer and squad leader do?
¿Y qué es lo que hace un ingeniero de proyecto y líder de squad?
Usualmente diseño, yo soy ingeniero civil, y como ingeniero civil soy ingeniero de puentes y lo que yo hago es diseñar puentes y hay veces que tengo una o dos personas debajo de mí en la cual yo los guío en cómo hacer el diseño.
What I do is I design. As a civil engineer, I'm a bridge engineer. I design bridges. I have 1 to 2 people underneath me that I guide, and the guy that belongs is design bridges.
And how long have you worked for that company?
¿Cuánto tiempo ha trabajado usted en esa compañía?
Inicialmente, cuando yo me gradué de UCF con una maestría en el 2002, 2003, ellos me emplearon primeramente como part-time y después fui full-time. Duré ahí hasta el 2009 y después me transferí a RSNH en agosto del 2009 hasta mayo del 2010 y luego me transferí de nuevo a HNTV y hasta el presente.
Well, initially, when I graduated UCF with a master's in 2002, 2003, they hired me. They brought me on as a part-time, and then as a full-time. I was there until 2009. I transferred to RSNH in August of 2009. I was there until May of 2010, and at that point, I transferred back to HNTV to the present day.
Now, what is your country of birth, Mr. Seino?
¿Cuál es su país natal, señor Severino?
República Dominicana.
The Dominican Republic.
It's my understanding that you speak English, but you're more comfortable in Spanish. Is that right?
Tengo entendido que usted habla en inglés, pero se siente más cómodo hablando en español. ¿Es correcto?
Eso es correcto.
That's correct.
It's also my understanding that you took some medication before testifying today. Is that true?
Y también tengo entendido que usted tomó algunos medicamentos antes de declarar en el día de hoy. ¿Eso es correcto?
Eso es correcto.
That is correct.
And that medication is for anxiety. Is that also true?
Y ese medicamento es para ansiedad, ¿verdad? Sí.
Eso es correcto.
That's correct.
As you sit right now, are you of clear mind and have a vivid recollection of your testimony and what happened on November 6, 2009?
Según está sentado en el día de hoy, ¿tiene usted una mente clara y un recuerdo vívido de los eventos que sucedieron según su recuerdo del 6 de noviembre del 2009?
Eso es correcto.
That's correct.
I'd like to direct your attention back to that day, November 6, 2009, at approximately 11:30 in the morning.
Quisiera llamar su atención nuevamente a los sucesos ocurridos el 6 de noviembre del 2009, como eso de las 11:30 de la mañana. Okay.
And were you working at Reynolds Smith and Hills that morning?
¿Estaba usted trabajando esa mañana en Reynolds Smith and Hills?
Eso es correcto.
That's right.
And that's at the Gateway Center at 1000 Legion Place, correct?
Y eso es en el Gateway Center, en el meeting de la Legion Place.
Eso es correcto.
Yes, that's right.
How long had you been working at RSNH prior to that day?
Anterior a ese día, ¿cuánto tiempo lleva usted trabajando en el RSNH?
Alrededor de 2 a 3 meses. Yo comencé en agosto del 2009, estamos hablando de noviembre, alrededor de 2 o 3 meses yo diría.
It was about 2 or 3 months at RSNH. I started in August of 2009, and we're talking about November, so yeah, it's about 2 or 3 months.
Now, at some point during that day, do you recall something frightening happening?
En algún momento dado de ese día, ¿recuerda usted que algo espantoso haya ocurrido?
Sí.
Yes.
Where had you been just before that occurred?
¿Dónde se encontraba usted antes de que eso sucediera?
Bueno, yo estaba en mi cubículo y me levanté de mi cubículo, iba a hacer un escáner de un documento que yo iba a enviar a mi jefe y me dirigía hacia la fotocopiadora para hacer el PDF y ahí fue que yo vi una persona enfrente de mí que agarrando una pistola me disparó.
I was at my cubicle, and I got up from my cubicle. I was headed over to the scanner in order to create a document which I was going to send to my boss. I went to the copier in order to create a PDF file. And it was then when I saw someone who was standing before me holding a pistol and who fired at me.
Now, where in the office of RSNH was your cubicle located in relation to the reception area?
¿Dónde se encontraba el cubículo de usted en la oficina de RSNH? ¿Dónde se encontraba el cubículo de usted con respecto al área de la recepción?
En la parte de atrás.
It was in the back.
Okay. Mr. Severino, if you look over your left shoulder, you see a floor plan of RSNH. Do you recognize that?
Señor Severino, si usted mira detrás de su hombro izquierdo, usted verá un plano del RSNH. ¿Lo reconoce?
Más o menos.
More or less.
There's a laser pointer in front of you on the table.
Hay un indicador de láser que ustedes ven una vez.
Could you show us,
¿Podría usted mostrarnos?
see where the elevator is,
¿De dónde está el ascensor?
and point to it, please?
Y señalar hacia él, por favor.
Okay.
That's the elevator.
And where was reception?
¿Dónde estaba la recepción?
La recepción tiene que estar somewhere in
The reception would have been somewhere in this area.
And it's my understanding that your office was in the back. Is that correct?
Tengo entendido que la oficina de usted está en la parte de atrás, ¿no? Around here.
Can you use the laser pointer to show us how it was that you walked from your cubicle to where the scanner was that day?
¿Podría usted mostrarnos con el láser cómo fue que usted llegó desde su cubículo hasta la propiedad del servicio?
por acá,
I was here,
voy por acá,
I went this way,
por acá,
I went this way,
por acá.
I went over here.
I was going this way.
I think I was going this way.
Okay.
Maybe this way. Porque el scan estaba para acá.
The scanner was over here.
Y esta es la recepción, so yeah, this way.
And this is the reception, so yeah, this way.
So on your right-hand side, there were offices with windows, correct?
Sí, al lado derecho había una oficina con ventana.
Correcto.
That's right.
And on the left, there were cubicles.
Yeah, aquí había cubículo.
Correcto.
That's right.
Had you ever seen, where was the man, show us with the pointer, that had the pistol?
Muéstrenos con el láser, ¿dónde estaba el hombre que tenía la pistola?
Estaba cerca de la recepción, como por acá.
Yes. Close to the reception, he was around here in this area.
And where were you when you saw him?
¿Dónde se encontraba usted cuando lo vio?
Yo diría que aproximadamente around here somewhere.
I'd say approximately I was here somewhere.
Was the gun already pointed at you when you saw him, or did he raise it?
La pistola, ¿ya estaba apuntada hacia usted cuando lo vio o él la alzó?
Que yo me acuerdo, yo creo que ya estaba apuntando.
As far as I recall, it was already pointed at me.
And could you tell, or do you recall what type of clothing the man was wearing?
¿Podría usted decirnos o recuerda qué clase de ropa llevaba el hombre? No.
Approximately how far from him were you when you saw him pointing the gun at you?
Aproximadamente, ¿qué tan lejos estaba usted de él cuando lo vio apuntando la pistola?
Cerca, no sé, algunos 4, 5, 6 pies, no sé, pero cerca. Estaba como por acá.
I was close. I mean, I don't know, some 4, 5, 6 feet. I was over here.
Could you tell if the person was male or female?
¿Podría usted decir si la persona era varón o hembra?
Lo que yo recuerdo es ver a alguien con la cara enojada.
What I remember is seeing someone with an angry face. That's what I recall.
And he was holding the gun with two hands, correct?
Y tenía la pistola agarrada con dos manos, ¿verdad? With 2 hands.
Did you hear a noise after you saw him pointing the gun at you?
¿Oyó usted un ruido después que lo vio que le apuntaron la pistola?
Yo oí un ruido. Antes de eso, cuando yo estaba caminando, yo oí un pop.
I heard a noise.
Antes de eso.
Before that, when I was walking, I heard a pop prior to that.
Did you know what that pop sound was?
¿Sabía usted lo que era el sonido de ese pop?
No idea.
I had no idea.
How many pops did you hear before you saw him?
¿Cuántos pops oyó usted antes que lo vio?
No estoy seguro, pero unos, no estoy seguro. Pero sí, yo oí un pop.
I'm not sure when. I'm not sure, but I heard a pop.
At least one.
Al menos uno.
Al menos
At least one.
What happened after he pointed the gun at you?
¿Qué pasó después que él le apuntó la pistola?
me disparó y llegó un momento en donde yo no recuerdo exactamente qué pasó conmigo hasta que lo que yo recuerdo después de eso es yo comenzar a correr por esta área y volver para atrás por donde está mi cubículo y por acá atrás hay una salida en la cual yo
shot me, and the time came where I can't recall exactly what happened. But I remember that after that, I ran along this area, and then I ran back to where my cube was located at, and I found an exit along that way. And it was through that exit which I left the building.
Did you go down the stairs or take an elevator?
¿Bajaste las escaleras o tomó un ascensor?
Yo tomé las escaleras. Cuando yo estaba corriendo,
I took the stairs.
me estaba corriendo por esta área,
When I was running along this area.
yo vi a Seino primero
I first saw Seino,
y después yo vi a Chelsea.
and then I saw Chelsea.
And then Chelsea estaba conmigo corriendo
And then Chelsea was running with me.
y Chelsea me acompañó a la salida del departamento
Chelsea accompanied me to the department exit,
y después cogimos las escaleras hasta abajo.
and then we took the stairs outside.
Where were you shot? Where on your body were you shot?
¿A dónde se le disparó usted? ¿A dónde en el cuerpo se le disparó usted?
En mi mano derecha, acá, en esta área.
Here, my right hand, this area.
Did you see the person who shot you again after seeing him right in front of you?
¿Volvió usted a ver a la persona que le disparó después que lo vio de frente? Never again.
Had you ever seen him before that day?
¿Alguna vez usted lo había visto anterior a ese día?
Anterior al día nunca lo había visto.
Prior to that day, I'd never seen him.
What happened when you got downstairs?
¿Qué sucedió cuando usted llegó hasta abajo?
Cuando yo llegué hasta abajo con Chelsea,
When I got downstairs with Chelsea,
ahí encontramos un muchacho que trabajaba hay un restaurante en el edificio
we found a guy who worked at a restaurant in the building,
y nosotros le pedimos por ayuda
and we asked him for help.
y él nos llevó al carro de él
He took us to his car.
y él comenzó a manejar
He began to drive,
y él le prestó su teléfono a Chelsea para que llamara al 911.
and he loaned Chelsea his phone so that she may call 911.
Chelsea llamó al 911 y le estaba explicando lo que estaba sucediendo y lo que me había sucedido a mí.
Chelsea called 911 and was explaining what happened and what had happened to me.
Y él después, no estoy seguro, estaba preguntando que a qué hospital él me podía llevar.
And then he asked, I'm not sure, but he asked what hospital could he take me.
Which hospital did you go to?
Bueno, él me llevó hasta el Salvation Army, que está en la 50, cerca de donde estaba el antiguo estadio de basquetbol de los Orlando Magic.
So he took me to the Salvation Army, which was on 50, close to the former arena where the Magic played.
Y ahí me recogió la ambulancia
And that's where the ambulance picked me up.
y me llevaron a ORMC, I believe.
And I believe from there was taken to arms.
What treatment did you receive for your gunshot wound at the hospital?
¿Qué tratamiento recibió usted en el hospital por su herida de disparo?
Bueno, me hicieron una cirugía porque el nervio radial, mi nervio radial fue cortado y por mucho tiempo yo tuve la mano que no la podía mover porque el nervio radial es el que hace el funcionamiento de mover la muñeca.
Well, they performed the surgery because the radial nerve was severed.
No me acuerdo correctamente.
No, I don't remember correctly.
Yo me acuerdo corriendo, tratando de salir del edificio.
I only remember running and trying to leave the building.
No further question.
Cross-examination.
No questions.
Any witness be excused?
He is released by the state, yes, Judge.
Thank you, sir. You may be excused. Statement called the next witness.
The state calls Guy Legionville.
Guy Legionville.
Gentlemen may be excused. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please tell us your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Guy Legionville, Legionveel.
Mr. Legionville, what city do you currently reside in?
Orlando.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a highway engineer for Royal Smith & Hills.
And what does a highway engineer do at Royal Smith & Hills?
Well, my title is project manager, but here of late I've been more of a technical advisor. Might have to do with reviewing plans or designs by others, preparing concepts of the transportation work that we do, working with some of the younger staff, many different tasks associated.
Can you kind of briefly describe, since you were a project manager, what types of projects and work you do or the company of RS&H does?
Oh my goodness. Well, Royal Smith & Hills works in so many different areas of engineering and architecture. They're quite large in transportation. That would principally be highways. They're also in aerospace and defense over on the coast. We have a large group there. They're involved in aviation. They're involved in vertical engineering and design. They're involved in utilities, infrastructure.
What
Just
about
pretty
primarily out of the Orlando office?
Primarily in the Orlando office, we have some architecture, we have some planning, but it's mostly geared towards transportation, geared towards highway projects in the greatest amount.
Within transportation, are there different groups within the Orlando office?
Yes, we have a structures group that would mostly be involved in bridges and walls and that type of structural engineering. We have a roadway group that generally does the project management because it is a roadway project. We have tolling groups.
Like toll road?
Yes, sir. We work quite often on toll roads. Most recently, if you'll notice, the Turnpike has been upgrading their systems from a cashier-based to all electronic automatic tolling.
Your company was involved in that?
Yes, sir. We're involved in that upgrade or that remodeling.
Now, how long have you worked at Royal Smith & Hills?
Well, I've worked there 2 different times.
Start with the first time when you started, if you don't mind.
Well, yes, my goodness. I started back in '94 and I worked there for 7.5 years and left and came back in 2006 and have been there since then. So that would be 7 years this month.
Now, prior to November 6th of 2009, did you know a person named Jason Rodriguez?
No, sir.
Do you recall personally meeting him ever before that day?
No, sir.
Now, where were the offices, the Orlando offices of Reynolds Smith & Hills located on November 6th of 2009?
Well, we had the main office was the 8th floor, and I am aware that we had a spillover due to need for room onto the 9th floor.
The 8th floor of what?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Gateway
okay.
Center.
And that's here in
1000 Legion Place.
Yes, sir. Now, how would an employee gain access to your suite when you were in that building? In other words, where would they park and how would they get into
Normally
your
we
office?
would park in the parking garage that's actually integral to the building. It's a little unusual, but it's actually inside the building.
You said it's unusual. Could you describe how it connects to the building?
Well, it's actually takes up the first 6 floors. Beyond the 6th floor is with the occupants actually can have space to work and so on.
So was there more than one way in to the building of the Gateway Center?
Oh, yes, sir. There's
Specifically, could you access it via the stairs from the 6th floor of the parking garage?
Yes.
And was there also an elevator that would take you down to the 1st floor and access the building through the lobby?
Yes.
Now, can you sort of describe the layout of the offices at Suite 800 on the 8th floor? And there's a diagram over your shoulder if it will help you. And there's a laser pointer in front of you.
Well, I mean, I can walk you through if that's what you want me
Please.
to do. These are our elevators. These elevators here actually take you from the main lobby downstairs up to the different floors. This is the stairway that you can use to get down to the 6th floor of the parking garage. Off the elevator, we had most of this area here. And our construction services group had this area here. But this is the main entrance. This was the reception area.
Who sits in the reception area?
Maureen managed that area, Maureen Daly.
Okay.
She managed that area. From there, this down here is our main conference room. And then as you come in here, these are all offices on this side, cubicles. There's an office here. This is the copier and a wet sink area. Then here's another office, and then from there, cubicles, and on into the remainder of the building.
Okay. Now, in November of 2009, where was your office located?
Okay, I would be in this second office right here.
And can you see out of that office if the doors close?
Oh, certainly.
Why is
The
that?
windows at Reynolds Smith and Hills, the basic layout for the offices are large open windows at every office to help light, I think it helps the synergy of the team because everyone's more or less working together in the same space.
And back in November of 2009, can you show us where the management offices were located and name the managers as you go
Well,
through?
my supervisor, Renato Rodriguez, his office was here. Jesse Forst's office is here. He's now our office manager. He's vice president for Orlando. James Avitable, which I'm not sure when the transfer occurred, James Avitable had been our office manager until Jesse came along, and James's office was right here. And then these offices were taken by other
More senior people? Is
more
that a fair
senior
statement?
people, I guess you could say.
They got the offices.
Yes,
As opposed to
that's the way it
cubicles.
works.
Understood. Now, I'd like to direct your attention, Mr. Legionville, to the morning of November 6, 2009, at approximately 11:30 a.m. Do you remember that morning?
Yes, sir.
And something frightening happened that day, correct?
Yes, sir.
Where were you when the events started?
Well, I was sitting here at my computer at that time. Keith was with me, Keith Brockman. Keith had his office here. We were together, and I think it was actually on one of the toll road projects. We were looking at an area of concern. I was seated, and Keith was standing right here next to me, and we happened to be looking at the screen. And I'm thinking in my mind,
What was it that got your attention?
oh my goodness, I just heard a ruckus, and I think I heard some shots.
Did
It's
you
a little
know
hard-
which direction the ruckus was coming from?
I believe that it was coming from this area and moving down into this area. It's a little difficult. Sound tends to bend and move, and it's a little difficult to, especially in this rather unusual shaped area, to tell exactly. But I believed it was coming from this area. And I saw some disturbance right here after a moment.
Did you know what you saw, or was it just motion?
No. I'm sitting, so there's petitions. There's petitions here, and I can only just see up and a little bit.
How high are those petitions?
Gosh, I'm
Approximately.
not really sure. 4 feet, maybe.
So if you were standing, you could see over.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you hear a ruckus. What did you do, or what did you see in response to that ruckus?
Well, Keith, he didn't say a word. He just moved and moved out.
And you're pointing, we're going to say
Well, I was
north.
pointing again at my office, and he was standing here, and Keith Brockman moved and went in this direction.
Down the hallway, away from reception.
Yes.
You said he moved. Can you describe his movement?
Well, he was ready to go. He was moving.
Could you see his face?
No, I didn't notice. He was gone.
All right. After Keith ran, what did you see? Or I just said ran. What speed did he leave with?
It was. I don't think it was a run, but it was a very fast gait. It was a very fast gait.
What did you see or hear after Keith left your office?
I just heard more gunshots.
Now, did you know at this point that there were gunshots?
I was pretty sure, but I was still confused, and it was hard for me to believe that this was going on.
Okay.
I had no frame of reference to ever think something like this.
So what happened after you said you heard more gunshots?
Well, I just, I was paused. I was pausing. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to hide. I didn't know whether to run. I didn't know what to do. And every so often I would hear more gunshots.
Now, are you looking out of your office?
I'm looking out, but I'm not really seeing anything.
You didn't see anybody at that point.
Well, at a point later, and you lose sense of time. At a point later, James Beverly, in James's office is this office right here. James comes out, and I believe he comes this way, and I see him moving briskly.
Moving briskly past your office.
Towards the entrance,
So that
towards the
would be
main entrance.
From your left to your right.
Yes.
And could you see
And-
Mr. Beverly's face?
He moved very fast across. I recognized who he was. I wasn't. I know who he was. I didn't see. I don't know. I knew there was an urgency. I don't know if I saw anguish in his face or anything. I don't know why you had what you.
You alluded to it earlier, but do you know even approximately how long you were standing there between when Keith left your office and when Mr. Beverly left your office?
I really don't. I think it was a matter of minutes. Short. I mean, I really don't. I would be guessing.
Okay,
I'm
that's
sorry.
fine. So, after Mr. Beverly moved briskly past your office, what did you do?
I'm still in a dilemma.
A dilemma between what?
Hide or run, what to do. And so I don't want to come out of that office and come in contact with whatever's going on out there.
At this point, you don't know who is doing what.
I don't know who's doing what to who.
Okay. Did you eventually make a decision?
Yes, but I want to mention one more thing, if it helps, and that is that I saw John Hornbeck come past my office, and it was clear to me at that point that he had been shot. I mean, he was in a very
Was he
rugged,
crouched?
Yes, sir, in a rugged gait. That he was really straining to get down the hall.
Okay, so did you have that information prior to making your decision?
Yes, sir. And so now, I mean, it's blatant, and I already know something terrible's going on, and I hear some more gunshots and so forth. Well, at a point, it becomes quiet, and I start trying to muster up my courage, and I come to the door, and I look down to the left, and I look over to the right, and I don't see anything, so I back up, I take a deep breath, and I go. And I turn, coming here, and I turn to run this way to try to get out of here. And the instant I come out, I'm shot in the back.
you just mentioned when you say the back, the right upper shoulder, so to speak?
Well, it's actually went through my hatchet bone, my scapula,
Okay.
and I can't touch it, but it's kind of in the upper. It's in the upper back on the right, but quite a ways down.
What did you do after you turned the corner and were shot?
I hit the floor, and I got up immediately. I didn't really know at that instant that I had been shot. I thought I had fallen and hit my face. And so I got up and I ran around the petition here, and I went right here, and I ducked down, and I had run low, like this, trying to make my target as small and as obscure as I could. And so I'm standing here, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I can't just stand here. What's going to stop this person from coming and shooting me where I am?
And at this point, by the time you got to the partitions near the copy machine, had you seen the person shooting?
No, sir.
Okay. So you get down there, what happens?
So I come up from behind the petition, and I see Jason Rodriguez standing there at the other side of this area right in here. And he looks at me like this, and he takes and he turns and he heads off that way. And when he does, he picks his gun up and he moves as though he's in a combative posture.
Okay.
And he recedes to the back, and I took and went as quickly as I could out this way and down those stairs to the 6th floor.
Okay, so let me slow you down a little bit.
Yes.
Yes, sir. You ran out of reception, past the elevators, and down the south stairwell.
Yes, sir.
How tall are you?
5'11".
Could you see clearly over the cubicles?
Oh, yes.
And you referred to them as partitions.
Yes, sir.
And you said that you saw Jason Rodriguez.
Yes.
At that point, did you know who Jason Rodriguez was?
No.
Do you see the person that you saw on the other side of the petitions with the gun in court today?
Yes, I do.
And could you please point to him and describe something he's wearing?
I'm sorry.
Describe an article of his clothing if you can.
Well, he's wearing a pink striped shirt, I think. He's a gentleman with a beard there, right there.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
Record will so indicate.
Mr. Legionville, when you ran through reception, did you see anyone?
I didn't know for sure, but it was Otis laying on the floor.
You said Otis. Can you give us his full name?
Otis Beckford.
How had you known Mr. Beckford?
How did I know?
Yes.
He worked almost immediately adjacent to me. Otis worked, I think, in this cubicle or this cubicle. I can't remember for sure. And helped James Beverly with his task. I knew Otis I didn't work that closely with him, but I knew him as a person I enjoyed.
And where did you see? I interrupted you.
I'm sorry. No.
You said that you saw Otis and you weren't sure, and I stopped you. What did you see?
Yes, sir. I never knew the meaning of the word horror until that day.
Where did you see him, Mr. Legionville?
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw him right here.
And
right in this area.
was he moving?
No, sir.
How was he positioned?
He was laying down, I believe, with his face down. I really didn't take a long time to look at him. I was in a lot of pain and fear.
Did you see anybody once you got to the elevator lobby?
Well, what I did is I came out on the 6th floor, and some of the fellow employees were actually on that 6th floor garage level, and they helped me down.
Okay, you said the 6th floor. You came out of the stairs on the 6th floor of the parking garage.
Yes, sir.
All right, and when you got to the 6th floor, where did you go?
We took the elevators down to the ground floor lobby of the garage.
Do you recall who was with you?
I'm sorry, Rick Kinney, John Hornbeck was down there. There was someone else, but I don't recall who it was.
When you got, can you describe the area of where you were at the base of the elevators?
It's
In the parking garage.
yes, sir. It's the main. There's 3 elevators, I think, that go up and down and serve the garage. It's the main entrance. It serves the south entrance to the garage and also services the courtyard out in front of the main entrance to the building. There's double glass doors coming out of the parking garage, and as you leave the lobby area of the elevator bank, it just opens up into the ground floor of the parking garage.
And how long did you remain in that elevator area? Initially.
I don't think it was very long. I don't think it was more than 3 to 5 minutes.
Now, you're shot at this point, correct?
Yes, sir.
So why didn't you remain there longer?
Well, because someone said who was standing on the other.
Without saying what somebody told you.
No, I heard this person say.
No, I know you heard them, but you can't say what someone else told you. So what was your belief why you left that elevator?
That he had come out of the main entrance of the Gateway Center.
Okay, so where did you go from the elevator lobby?
There's a stairwell. That would be the south stairwell, that of the parking garage, and we went and hid inside the door that opened up into the first floor of the parking garage.
Do you recall who was with you at that point?
Rick, John, those are the 2 I recall.
And is that where you were when law enforcement finally arrived to collect you, so to speak?
Yes, sir.
And did you receive any treatment for your gunshot wound?
Yes, I was taken by ambulance to ORMC and spent a couple of days there.
And did they remove the projectile or bullet from you?
No, sir.
And why not?
Well, it's amazing. I mean, if I can say.
If you could tell us, if you know, the path of the bullet and why they didn't remove it.
Yes, thank you. It's amazing, and some people say it's a miracle. I received a 2-foot-long superficial wound, believe it or not. The bullet went into my back, turned, came along, hit my spine, turned, left fragments of my spine and a piece of bullet there, turned, went up my neck, went across my face, and turned, and is now sitting here in my sinus.
And do you feel it at any point?
When it's cold, I can feel it.
Now, Mr. Legionville, I asked you earlier about where the different offices were. Remember me asking that question?
Yes, sir.
And do you know, was Jesse Forst in the office that day?
No, sir, he was not.
And what about Jim Avitable? Was he there?
No, sir, he was not.
What about Renato Gonzalez? Was he present?
No, sir.
Do you know where Jim Forst and, Jim Avitable and Jesse Forst were that day?
No, sir, I do not.
But you know they weren't in their offices?
I know they were not now.
Henry, may I approach the witnesses with the United States Exhibit D and show me counsel?
You may.
Mr. Legionville, I'm handing you what the mark that states Composite Exhibit D. It's a series of photographs. Please look through them individually and tell me if you recognize them.
Yes, sir, I do.
Don't describe them just yet. I'll give you the opportunity. After you've looked at them all, can you tell me if they fairly accurately depict the office and the scene that you've been describing on November 6, 2009?
Yes.
Now, at this time, the state seeks to admit composite D as space 4.
What it says to defense,
No objection.
if there are no objections, they will be receiving evidence as
Stage 4.
Permission to publish space 4?
you may publish.
Thank you. If you look over your left shoulder, Mr. Legionville, I'm going to put some photographs up. If you could describe what you saw or what's on the screen, the photograph of.
Well, this picture is taken from the reception area and is looking down the walkway between the cubicles on the right and the offices. That second door that you see up there on the left is the door to the office that I was occupying.
And
The first. Okay. No, sir.
the partition on the right-hand side, is that the partition where you looked back over the office?
Yes, sir. A little bit to the right of that is where I was.
Okay. You said a little bit to the right.
Yes, sir.
This is composite A2. Is that the same partition?
Yes, it is.
And is that the area where you were standing when you saw Jason Rodriguez?
Yes, sir.
And finally, E1. And that's when you're looking back the direction that you were looking. Is that correct?
Yes, but a little bit further right.
You were looking to the right.
A little bit further down to the right. The picture doesn't actually show the point
Understood.
where I saw.
Your Honor, I don't have any further questions.
Cross-examination.
Now, you said you started work there in November of 2006. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And was your office always located in the same place?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that you had different employees of RS&H working on different floors in that same building, correct?
Yes.
Some were on the 8th and some were on the 9th floor. Okay. And while you were working there, was Mr. Rodriguez working on the 9th floor?
That's what I'm suspecting. I really don't know certain.
Okay, but that's what you think is the reason as to why you don't know him,
Right.
even though your employment and Mr. Rodriguez's employment overlapped for quite some time.
Yes.
Okay. And then you said that when you were standing at the end of the hallway near the area where you said the wet sink is,
Yes.
where you ran to after you were shot, you said you saw him standing at the other end of that hallway.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And you said, though, that he turned the opposite direction from you and went further back into the office.
Correct.
He didn't come at you.
Thank goodness.
He didn't go over towards Jesse Forst's office. He didn't go in that direction.
No.
He
Not
went
at
back
that
the other
time.
way.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Read the rep.
No, Your Honor.
May witness be excused.
He is by the state.
Thank you, sir. You may be excused.
Thank you.
State may call the next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Keith Brockman. Brockman. B-R-O-C-K.
Brockman?
You may proceed.
Thank you. Sir, could you please tell us your full name and spell your last name for the record?
Keith Charles Brockman, Brockman.
And what city do you reside in, Mr. Brockman?
Orlando, Florida.
And how long have you lived in the city of Orlando? Approximately.
About 7 years.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a civil engineer.
How long have you been a civil engineer?
About 16 years now.
And where are you currently employed?
Reynolds Smith and Hills.
And how long have you been an employee at Reynolds Smith & Hills?
Approximately 14 years.
Did you go there straight out of school?
No, I worked in city of Boston.
Okay. Do you recall, when did you start working at Reynolds Smith & Hills?
I started in '99 in the Fort Lauderdale office, and then worked down there for about 7 years, and then moved up here to Orlando, where I've worked approximately 7 years up here now.
Okay, so you started in the Orlando office in 2006, approximately?
No, I got my time frame wrong. No, it was we moved up here in 04.
Okay. And who's we, your family?
My wife and I.
Okay. Where was the RS&H offices, or were they located when you first moved in 2000?
It was over behind the Fashion Mall.
The Fashion Square Mall?
Yeah, Fashion Square Mall.
Okay. And then the offices moved to a different location, correct?
To the Gateway Plaza, yes.
Okay. Now, so you worked for RS&H in the Orlando office continuously since 2004, is that right?
Yes.
Do you recall ever working with a person named Jason Rodriguez?
Yes.
And that would be approximately 2006, 2007, is that fair?
Yes.
What area, if you know, did he work in? What area of the office? I'm sorry, let me be more specific. By area, I mean area of expertise.
Area of expertise. He helped out with some of the roadway design work. He did some of the specification work for us, and mainly he did toll plaza work.
Did you ever work directly with Jason Rodriguez?
I think on 1 or 2 assignments briefly.
Did you ever get to know him on anything more than at work, use the word professional basis?
No.
Ever socialize with him?
Just water cooler?
You'd see him in the office?
Yes.
Were you personally familiar with his work product?
Yes.
How was his work product?
And in the 1 or 2 times that I did work with him directly, it was subpar, I would say.
And are you aware that at some point he was terminated?
Yes.
Now, were you employed and working at the RS&H offices at 1000 Legion Place on the morning of November 6, 2009?
Yes.
And what were you doing that morning just before 11:30 a.m.?
I was working on an engineering problem with a couple coworkers.
Can you tell us which ones?
It was Guy Legionville, James Beverly.
All right, and where were you doing that work?
We were between all three of our offices, kind of bouncing back and forth. People had different documents open on their computers, but I think we were settled.
I apologize, Your Honor. This is Exhibit 2.
Thank you.
Now, do you recognize that diagram?
Yes.
And what do you recognize it as?
The office at Gateway.
And where was your office? Thank you, ma'am.
My office is right here.
And you said you were in Guy Legionville's office, correct?
Correct.
Where was that office? And you also referenced a person named James Beverly.
Yes.
Where was his office?
James, I believe, was right here.
So you were in Guy's office, and at some point did you become aware of a problem?
Yes.
And what made you aware?
I heard loud noises coming from this area right here.
Okay. Can you describe the noises?
Bangs.
Had you ever heard a noise like that before?
Yeah, a balloon popping, something like that. Yeah.
Is that what you thought it was?
Originally, yes.
All right. When you heard the noises, what did you do?
Just looked up and saw Ed Severino, saw his face.
Where was Ed Severino when you saw his face?
It was probably right out here.
And which direction was he going?
Seemed to go in this direction.
Away from reception?
Yes.
And it appears that you're referring to the outer row of cubicles. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And can you describe Mr. Severino's face as you saw it from Mr. Legionville's office?
It was terrifying.
Now, at this point, how many balloon pops have you heard?
I believe 2 at that point.
And are you standing or sitting?
I am standing at that point.
What did you do after you saw Mr. Severino's face?
I ran towards the door
Why did you run?
because something was wrong.
Did you know what was wrong?
No.
I'm sorry?
No, not at that point.
Which direction did you run?
I came to the doorway right here and then worked my way this way.
Now, prior to running, did you see anyone?
Yes.
And where did you see the person that you saw?
Approximately right in this area here.
And at what point did you see him? Because you said you stood up and at some point you ran. When was that?
It was just as I made that movement out the door.
And can you describe the person that you saw?
Yes.
Describe what he was wearing and his face.
It was tough to tell what he was wearing because he was, there was a row of cubicles here between them, but his face, I saw his side, and it appeared.
Did you recognize the person?
Yes.
And who did you recognize the person as?
I recognized him as a former coworker,
And specifically, which former coworker?
as Jason Rodriguez.
Could you see Mr. Rodriguez's hands?
No.
What happened after you left Mr. Legionville's office?
I ran in this direction here, and at some point I fell in this area.
Outside of whose office did you fall?
I don't know for sure, but I've heard from other.
Not what anybody told you. If you don't know for sure,
I
that's
don't know
fine.
for sure.
Okay. You fell towards the end of the road.
Yes.
All right. And then what happened after you fell?
I got up and made my way around out this door.
And after you went out that door, where did you go?
I ran down this hall and down these stairs. I believe.
Did you run into or have contact with anybody else as you were exiting out the south stairs?
No.
What happened when you got down the stairs?
When I got downstairs, I met up with James Beverly, another coworker, in the lobby. He was kind of standing there.
Okay. Where did you go from the lobby?
We went across the street to the hotel. I think it was a Sheraton at the time.
Was anybody else with you when you got out of when you started to head over to the Sheraton?
No, just James. James and I ran across the street.
Did you see anybody else down in the lobby area?
No one I recognized.
What happened when you got over to the Sheraton?
As I was crossing the street, I started dialing 911.
Okay. And when you dialed 911, did you report the shooting?
Yes,
And did you provide the identification of the person you saw as the shooter?
I believe I did.
Mr. Brockman, do you see the person that you saw in the office that day, sitting in court today?
Yes, sir.
And could you please point to him and describe something he's wearing?
It's a reddish shirt.
And that's Jason Rodriguez, correct?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
The record will so indicate.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Mr. Brockman, at the point that you saw Mr. Rodriguez, did you actually see him moving in any direction?
Seemed to be,
I can't.
Not what he's seen. Did you actually see him move?
No, it was a split second.
No further questions.
May the witness be excused.
He is by the state of Florida. Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may be excused. State the call of the next witness.
State calls John Hornbeck.
John?
Hornbeck.
John Hornbeck?
solemnly swear that the testimony you should give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and nothing but
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please give your full name and spell your name for the record?
Gregory Hornbeck, Hornbeck.
And Mr. Hornbeck, what city do you currently reside in?
Here locally,
And how long have you lived here locally?
since 75.
Did you say 75? And what is your occupation, Mr. Hornbeck?
Civil engineer.
And how long have you been a civil engineer or worked as a civil engineer?
Since 92.
1992?
Yes.
Where are you currently employed?
I'd rather not say. Locally, engineering company.
Are you employed with Reynolds Smith and Hills at this point?
I'm not.
Were you previously employed with Reynolds Smith and Hills?
Yes.
And what was the dates of your employment with Reynolds Smith and Hills?
I believe it's April-ish, April-May of 2007. And then I left probably fall of 2010. That's, I think, the time.
What was your job title while you were an employee at Reynolds Smith and Hills?
Senior project manager.
And what did you do as a senior project manager?
Managed roadway projects, civil engineering projects for counties, cities, governments.
And were you working at Reynolds Smith and Hills in November of 2009?
I was.
And where were their offices located at that time?
I'm not sure the address, but it's commonly called the Gateway Center.
When you were employed there, did you ever come to know a coworker named Jason Rodriguez?
I had never seen him or worked with him. I think there might have been an overlap, but I believe there were people on a different floor. But in the hospital, watching the news is the first time I'd ever seen him.
You never saw Mr. Rodriguez prior to November 6, 2009, to your knowledge?
No.
So now I'd like to talk to you about that Friday, November 6th. Were you working that day in the offices around 11:30 a.m.?
I was.
And what were you doing around that time?
We were finishing up a proposal that was due for a city project.
And were you working with anybody else or on your own?
No, it was mostly done, so I was proofreading and trying to get it ready to submit.
Where were you doing this work?
I was in my office.
And where was your office located in relation to reception at Royal Smith and Hills? Smith and Hills.
Yeah, it was down the hall, down the main hall.
Would using a diagram of the floor plan assist you in showing and illustrating your testimony?
Sure.
May the witness refer to State's Exhibit 2, please.
Okay.
Mr. Hornbeck, over your left shoulder is State's Exhibit 2. Do you recognize it?
I don't know where you yet. Where are the elevators?
Sorry, that should help.
Okay, I see now.
There's a laser pointer in front of you.
Okay, so. Okay, yeah, these are the elevators at the main entrance there. And then I was in this office there.
Now, at some point, did something get your attention from the reception area?
Yes,
What was it that got your attention?
I heard what I thought was gunfire.
And how did you know, or did you know it was gunfire?
The first part of my career, I was in the military, so I never owned weapons, but I've fired them, as part of being in the Army. And the first thing I heard, I'm like, that's a gun.
Okay. What did you see? Do you know how many shots you heard?
No, it was several, but you don't expect it in the office, so you start to think, well, no, it was an air conditioner backfiring or a box of papers being dropped. But once I heard several more shots, then I knew that it was in fact gunfire.
And after you identified it as gunfire, what did you see?
Well, I distinctly recall looking around to see if there was any place to hide. About that same time, I realized there really wasn't, and Keith Brockman was running past the hall. If I may, he was running past here. This front of those chairs is glass, and he stumbled in front of my office, and he had a look of panic on his face, and he was coming from the right, and I thought the gunfire was coming from the right. So that confirmed all the clues that I'd seen and heard to that point.
And reception was to your right, correct?
Correct, yeah.
All right. So after you saw Mr. Brockman fall, what did you do?
I decided that I was, having seen a lot of gun violence, I wasn't going to die in my office. I was going to die trying to get out. And so I had decided that I was going to, there's a back, if you come out here, you can get to a door, you get to a stairwell that takes you to the garage. And so I was just going to run and try to make it. And that's what I did.
What happened when you stepped out of your office?
Right when I came out, I believe, I didn't know where, other than from the right. But right when I stepped out, I got hit. But I kept going.
Did you fall or stumble?
No.
You just kept running?
All the way down the stairs to the parking garage, I ran.
What floor of the parking garage did you go to?
The parking garage connects to the building at the 6th floor. And so, in fact, I distinctly remember when I was running down the stairs, that's when I kind of knew more about the damage that I had because my arm was swinging and stuff like that. So I distinctly remember getting off at the 6th floor of the parking garage with the hope to go down the parking garage elevator.
Now, going back a moment, you said that you got hit, referring to being shot, correct?
Right.
And can you tell us where it was on your body that you were shot?
I was exiting my office and making a left, and I think my arm must have been up because the bullet went in here, right through the humor, shattered it, hit the radial nerve, and ended what looked like an entry wound, but it was actually kind of the bullet pressing out on the skin, and it never exited the body. So it kind of went all the way through the arm. And the bullet broke up into hundreds of pieces, but a big chunk of it remained right there.
Did they eventually remove that, they being doctors?
Yeah, there were 2 procedures. The first one was to put a plate in my arm. The second procedure in January removed a piece of the bullet. There still remains in my arm now.
When you got to the 6th floor of the garage, what did you do?
I proceeded to the garage elevator with the hopes of getting away from the building, and I entered the garage elevator on the 6th floor.
Were you with anyone, or were you alone at that point?
I was alone.
Did you take the elevators to the 1st floor?
I did.
Were you still alone?
Getting out of the elevator, I actually, at the time I didn't know why, but I ran and bumped into the security guard. Now I know he was doing what he was doing, but I bumped into the security guard and I told him, I've been shot, there are multiple victims, they need help on the 8th floor.
Okay, you asked him for help.
Yes.
Where did you go after you ran into the security? Do you know his name, by the way? If you don't, it's okay.
Yeah, I'll think of it before we're done.
All right. When you got to the, after you talked to the security guard, where did you go?
If I recall, some others, Guy Legionville came out of the elevator, and there was, I took a knee there because, by then, felt I'd gotten to a little bit of a safe point, and, the adrenaline was catching up with me. But eventually, the small gathering started, and we all sort
Gathering of what?
Of people.
And where did this start?
In the elevator, common area, if you will,
The garage elevator.
the garage elevator.
Okay.
And there was a woman on the phone calling 911. Guy was injured, being helped. And I remember there was ruckus about either someone passing or them realizing that whoever comes in or out of this building would pass this point. And so I took it upon myself to leave that area and went and hid in the garage behind a car.
Is that where you were when law enforcement finally contacted you?
Yes, yeah. I eventually got up from there after.
Well, I'm sitting here. The rest of them. You need anything?
What time did you say to him? What time did you leave? 10 after?
Is it 5 after?
5 after.
3 or 5?
Yeah, don't enter.
Yeah, I get in trouble if I was listening to you.
17.
Leave it on the deputy. Deputy told.
You gotta keep your hands out of your pocket. No, it's policy. We gotta check that you don't put anything in your pocket. Stuff like that. We'll make the rules we follow. That's it. Are you okay? They did that again?
What time did they actually bring it
It's supposed to be here at 9, so I think at 8, about at 8.
Because I guess it's just from the medical standpoint, when they do around and because they're really gonna, because don't they serve breakfast at like 5 or something? Right. And go back to sleep again. When they get woken up to get transported. I know, we've all got stuff on.
Yeah.
Just passing it around.
And I a lot. I was still hungry because the food was so good.
What'd you eat today?
At the Cuban place in the Fairbanks building.
Oh, not the new Black McDonald's?
No,
I heard that's good.
it is very good.
I haven't been there
I had the ground beef with my
yet. Are you checking?
I told her
the one you went to is which one?
It's on Fairbanks building. On Central. Right next to the White Wash.
No, I can't think of the name.
The third one.
No, I mean, what's the name of the Cuban restaurant?
It's called Cuban. That's their name. It's called Cuban Cafe. Cuban Cafe. You know where they got the that's the same way that
So this is now 2 days in a row that people talk to me about Cuban food, which means tonight I'm going to have to stop. I live in Castleberry, which is like little thing. There's 4 Cuban restaurants in there. There's the Cuban sandwiches on the run. There's Oasis.
you like chicken, the chicken is good, the steak is good. They got I'm not going to be shredded.
I wouldn't just drag him here today.
No, but ground beef is different.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah, Picadillo, ground beef, olives, raisins.
right. Now this one doesn't have, and this one they don't put it. No, you gotta try it without it. You don't like it.
Well, yeah, I'd eat it without it, but I like it that way.
No, I don't like it with it because it's
You
too
get
sweet.
that
It's
sweet,
too sweet.
with that mix of the olive and
I don't like it that sweet.
the aruba view is usually more tomato.
Yes, this one they don't make it like that either. They make it.
About the main thing.
It's like you gotta have sauce on top of it.
They got that. They got.
The only thing with this is and we can tell because they have the green thing.
I
highlighting it, but
I have some Castleberry. Have you ever not like 792 Castleberry becomes a walk?
Yeah, on the right hand side.
Yeah, the Cuban sandwich. I still call it Cubans on the run because that's what it's called. But gotcha.
The article in the Breeze came out.
what did it? The November edition? I'll have to.
Just an email that said, good article.
Who wrote? What's it about?
Past recollection. What he said, we probably shouldn't ask the Supreme Court for any favors anytime soon. Oops.
Who wrote it?
I did.
No, who was
Vogel. Rick Vogel.
Oh. Why did you say they were a bunch of idiots?
I said that they're only ignore factual situations and practicalities in criminal trials. I might have said something like law ignorant of facts. Maybe.
You're a rebel.